Let me start by saying what is the goal of this webinar. The goal is to share what it takes and what are the key elements to make your business idea a bankable idea, something that is attractive to a bank, a private investor, a private company, someone that can loan you the money to implement or to scale up your business. Let me be clear that I'm not suggesting that all your restoration activities need necessarily be funded with private finance, but that private finance can complement any grants, any subsidies, any additional support you may need to implement your business. And the premise of this webinar is that some restoration activities, maybe let them be tree planting or agroforestry systems, or shifting from unsustainable to sustainable practices like conservation agriculture or agroecological practices, shifting from monocropping to integrated systems. They can generate products, they can generate services that can be sold, and you can turn them into a business. So this is the outline of this presentation. I will start by looking at the question of why would you want to look at restoration through a business lens? I have one slide on that, and then the bulk of the presentation will be on this resource that Desha has just mentioned on supporting small producers, communities, small and medium enterprises to develop bankable business plans. Why we did it, what was the rationale for that, what was the process of development, and what are the contents of the guide. And we end with the some next steps. So let me start with the first question. Why looking at restoration through a business lens? Well, there are three main reasons. The first one is that the level of resources that are needed to implement restoration. We know that just to meet the bond challenge target alone, we need tens of billions of dollars a year. And to reach full land degradation neutrality, we need hundreds of billions of dollars a year. And this level of funding cannot be met through public finance alone. So it is important to mobilize private finance as a complement to public investments. So that's the first reason. The second one is that sustainability of restoration efforts will be at risk if they're not linked to improving the incomes and livelihoods of local populations. If, on the other hand, these restoration efforts are linked to the development of value chains that generate economic returns for these populations on turn will have an additional stake in the long-term success of these efforts. And the third reason is that we have some practices, some good practices that are already taking place. For example, farmers are already planting and growing trees. They are getting organized to sell their production. They are diversifying their activities in order to put less pressure on the landscapes. And they could benefit more. They could grow more income by understanding better how to participate actively in these value chains, how to professionalize their work, and how to transition from subsistence practice to business practices. So what motivated us to develop this business guide? Well, as I said, when restoration is linked to the development of value chains, it can generate many benefits. It can generate social benefits like jobs and healthier communities. It can generate environmental benefits like climate adaptation and mitigation, biodiversity conservation, etc. And it can also generate economic benefits like higher incomes, value creation. And at the same time, we know the smallholders, communities, their organizations, small and medium enterprise typically have struggled to access private finance for a number of obstacles. I put here some of the most often cited ones, which is limited knowledge of business planning processes, These ideas have often an unclear earning logic, and it is also unclear how to scale up these activities, and they have weak understanding of investors and creditors criteria. So we wanted to fill these gaps and improve the capacity of small producers and their organizations to access private finance, so that, as I said, they're better able to participate in value chains and derive increased socioeconomic benefits from them. These are some of the principles we have adopted to develop the guide. We wanted this to be accessible with no necessary advanced technical knowledge in order to put together a business plan. We want it to be practical. What you learn in this guide, you can immediately put into practice. And we wanted to promote businesses that are and solutions that are sustainable, that deliver triple wins. They're sustainable not only on the environmental, not only on the social, not only on the economic, but are able to support these three key pillars of sustainability. Let me also share a few words on how it was developed. It is a product of a collaboration with several professionals, both within FAO and also outside. Everybody contributed their experience with their due diligence in the development of investment profiles and business plans. I want to mention here the help we received from professionals like Petri Lehtonen, Alex Pra, that I'm so happy to see they have joined this call. And we also consulted with banks, with investors, and we piloted this training on the field and in Kenya, in Uganda, and also with online mentoring. So let me move into the guide. So what is in this guide? The guide, as I said, is about the development of bankable business plans. It is organized in 10 modules. You don't need to read all of this because I will go through them one by one just in a short while. But basically, they help you see what you're doing from a business perspective. They will help you professionalize what you're doing, help you see how to connect to the local economy, see what possibilities exist in the value chains where you're operating, and help you assess your financial viability and your financial sustainability. All these are all interconnected. And let me also say briefly what is included in each of these modules. Each module contains some description of what is the main concept. It also includes some examples from real world business case to illustrate how this could be done. It includes resources like web-based tools that are available, ready to use for the preparation of your business plan. It includes use for references, and each module ends with a checklist with key questions. These are based on creditors and investors' concerns that help you track whether you are in compliance with the key requirements, okay? So I'm gonna walk you quickly through each and every one of these modules. This starts with the module 1, which is you must have an evidenced business idea. What does that mean? It means that you need to gather information and evidence and organizing to answer questions like, okay, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? And what is the solution that this business provides? What's unique about this particular solution? And what is the market that I will target? And what are the channels that exist for our business to reach this market? And finally, what is the cost structure of my business and what are the anticipated revenue streams? So after working through this first module and filling out the template, you basically have a one-page summary of your evidence business idea. And this is both a good way to start, because if you haven't done anything yet, you just have an idea, you can start with this module and you can organize your information. And also it's a good way to summarize your business at the end of the whole process. We move to the second one, and to access finance, there has to be a well-structured organization or enterprise and a committed management that is dedicated to put into practice this business. And these are some examples that you can find in Module 2. They can help you organize information about the various roles and responsibility and the skills and competencies of the management team. And once the roles are defined, it is helpful to also have a structure of the business. It's helpful to have written job descriptions as well as a curriculum, for example, of the management. And the guide provides some general guidance on how to organize and produce these documents. In order to have a business, you must have a market. This is a basic idea in economics and finance, that there is a link between a market, your potential for income, and your potential for business growth. So the existence of a secure market and your access to it is an important starting point of any successful business plan. So a business plan should include some information, for example, like your understanding of the market, understanding who are your buyers and how you will reach them, and also understanding how the market is likely to change. Perhaps it is expanding because of population growth, or maybe because of economic growth. Perhaps the market is changing location, maybe through urbanization. The market is developing more in the cities rather than rural areas. Maybe the market is reducing because maybe of some newly introduced regulations, or the market is getting more sophisticated. It is important for you to understand all these aspects. And the guide helps you identify the key information needs to be collected in order to create an effective market outlook. It suggests where to find the data and the existing market studies, and suggests graphs like the one that you see on this slide, which shows the growing gap between timber demand and supply, to help you visualize and communicate this information. I am anticipating and imagining that some of the people in the call have gone through some other FAO training, like the market analysis and development, which is an excellent training, and also tackles this question of the market outlook. Module 4 helps you answer the question, do you have access to a sustainable supply of resources to go ahead? Businesses have failed because the data they had on their resources was not correct or was too optimistic. And so this module includes a list of information that is needed for you to put in your business in terms of resource availability, in terms of the productivity of the resource, in terms of how the resource is being managed. And it also helps you produce concrete outputs like the one that you see on this slide. This is a map produced by the Tree Grower Association of Nyandarua in Kenya, and illustrate the location of their tree farms in relation to markets. The tree growers in Nyandarua used to sell their trees as individual farmers directly to intermediaries. However, using FAO guidance, they were able to map their collective resources to do an inventory and change their marketing strategies. And now they plan to sell their productions. They have the ability to sell several thousand cubic meters instead of only a handful of every year, which makes them an important player in the local value chain. And the module provides suggestions on free software that can be used to generate this type of maps. Also provides an example of how you can summarize information on, for example, your tree inventory. In this particular case, also we include references of a guide of a colleague, Ben Caldwell, on how farmers can carry on themselves a tree inventory. We move to module 5, which asks, who are the other participants? Who is your competition? And as you look at this competition, at the other participants, are they really competitors, or could they become your partners? So it is helpful to have an understanding of how the value chain is structured. Here, it's a very simple example. You might find in your country actually that some of these value chain assessments have already been done, and you can use it to your benefit. And it is very important to understand your competition. Of course, the more competition there is, sometimes the smaller are the margins. And also the smaller you are, and the less negotiating power you have. So, also helpful to understand how your business is different from your competition. This is a simple SWOT analysis that was done by Swahili Honey to see how they differ from competition in terms of quality and in terms of price. So in this guide, there is information on how to put together a SWOT analysis and what information you should include in your marketing strategy. Now, let's say that your business is about, for example, using agricultural or wood waste to make briquettes for fuel. Instead of using fuel wood for natural forests, you offer to use agriculture waste and timber waste as green charcoal. Or let's say that your business is to set up a nursery that can sell quality seeds. Or your business is to restore fertility by making some investments in infrastructure. This model helps you clarify what technologies and logistics are needed to support the business, provide a sample write-up of the technical specifications that are needed. So technologies, do we have the right skill sets for adopting these technologies? Are the infrastructure and conditions in place? Do we have the external services that are needed to run the business? This you will find guidance on how to answer all these questions in this module. Module 7 helps you organize information about your business environment and legal issues. Things like regulations, taxations, trade restrictions, prevalence of illegal activities in your area, whether there are incentives or disincentives. These are also very important. We move on to the next one, which is actually the heart of your business plan, a financial model that organizes your costs, your revenues, and your anticipated risks. So the guide walks you through the main steps to do a financial analysis, basically, how to collect and which data to collect on revenues and costs, how to develop cash flow tables, how to compute financial indicators, and finally, how to run sensitivity analysis. And what you see here on this slide is an example of an output that was generated using material from our resource. More and more investors are interested in supporting business that generate environmental, social, and governance impacts that allows them to document how they are contributing to the achievement of key social development goals. So a statement of the ESG impacts of the business is very important, also for judging its overall sustainability, and can be an important element of your business strategy. The module provides example of ESG criteria. For example, how does the business contribute to mitigating climate change, or to protect biodiversity, or to improve the livelihoods? How can we quantify? The guide has some suggested key performance indicators you see on this slide, for example, on climate change criteria, for example, carbon sequestration, on biodiversity and ecosystem, on livelihoods, on governance. These are, as I said, some examples. And last but not least, any business involves risks. And here you see that there are different types of risks. They can be technical risk. For example, we don't know to what degree we can control subcontractors. They might be related to HR and management issues. There might be legal and institutional issues like political risk. There might be economic and market risk like price volatility. There might be environmental and climate risk like fires, diseases, storms. There might be a pandemic. There might be social risks like conflict. And it is important for your business to do these 4 things. First of all, to identify what are the sources of this risk. And then for each source to assess the probability of occurring. This can be done in a qualitative way. For example, the probability could be low, could be high, could be medium. Also, it's important to assess the severity of the impact on the business in case this occurrence takes place. And finally, what are the mitigation measures? And this is an example of how a business like Central Park Bees did to summarize their risk assessment. So, that's a lot of information to digest. And so I just want to end with these few words that remember that even a 1,000-mile journey begins with a single step. So there are people and initiatives that are ready to support you. There is a community of practice, like Desha has mentioned, that can also help you. Talk to your facilitators, and module 1 would be a good way to start organizing your thoughts.